Hello, my brother.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Nice.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Jake, for inviting me. My name is Joseph Zotu.
Uh-huh.
Over the past 10 years, I've been working as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I'm a co-founder and a growth lead of Talent in Africa. It's a youth employment agency. We also train entrepreneurs and build community business models. Within this period, I've also worked as a consultant, helping
Mhm.
small businesses, worked with partners like Footprint Africa, DSIK, worked with MasterCard Foundation, taught a bit of entrepreneurship to health sector
Yeah.
and all that. So, yeah, currently I'm working with the All Foundation, trying to help them build a community business model for their community business incubator.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's a bit about myself for now.
You've been around. You've been around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Reality Checks. So, in this segment, we are going to be talking about business and entrepreneurship.
Nice.
And all the struggles that come with that, especially in in
Yeah.
this economy. So, the first question, is whenever you want to start a business, you want to look at the capital side of it.
Mm.
So, how do people get capital and the struggles behind that?
That's a very good question. So usually what happens is, like you rightly said, when people want to start a business, the first thing that comes to mind is, um, where do I get capital or
Mm.
finance or access to finance to start this? Well, that's a very good question and way to start, because definitely at a point you would need finances to keep the business going. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start with a Why.
Mm.
And usually, when you understand the why that you are embarking on this entrepreneurship journey, then it gives you a sense of what you need to go through to get to where you want to get to. And this is very important because access to credit or finance is very difficult for entrepreneurs, especially in our part of the world.
Mm.
And there are various factors that contribute to this.
Mm.
One is that the policy environment itself is not friendly to
Yeah.
giving long-term capital to startup founders or entrepreneurs who want to start business. Beyond the fact that traditional banks don't want to do this, the rates at which people can also borrow money, even when it is available,
Mhm.
is also very
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So over 30%,
Yeah.
you cannot, as a business that wants to start,
Thrive on that.
thrive on
You
this.
can't.
It's not possible.
Exactly.
Then again, education on finance
Mm.
is very lacking. From our childhood, we are not taught how to manage finances.
Financial education is not.
We do not have
Yeah.
it. And so, understanding even where to access capital
Yeah.
is a problem, let alone getting it to start a business, which
Mhm.
many may not see where it will be in the next few years.
Yeah.
So when you start with your why, like I mentioned, then you understand that you are going to face these challenges.
Exactly.
But what will keep you going is the why. But before we come to that, we can stay with these issues as I have enlightened that these are the things that you look out for, because funding doesn't come easy when you're going to start a business in that part of the world. It's one of the hurdles you will have to
Yeah.
succeed.
I quite remember, like, I have a partner. We are also into consulting, right? And
Mhm.
we are trying to seek funding for these SMEs,
Mm.
right? And these fundings were coming from outside Europe, and they were mostly angel investors, right? And they wanted to invest maybe 10,000, 15,000 euros
Yeah.
into these businesses, right? So we went through the whole process to even qualify for that, and the city started depreciating.
Ah.
You get me? Started depreciating, and the investors started getting worried because I'm giving you euros,
Yeah.
and you're making your money in Ghana cedis.
Exactly.
So that means your debt keeps on quadrupling in that sense. It was how much is the cedi to the euro now? I think it's what.
It's around 20 because the city to dollar is around 17 now.
See how ridiculous it
Yeah,
is?
exactly.
So it got to a point where it's like, this is not sustainable. So we had to pause it because at the end of the day, it's going to, because if you're making money in CDs and sometimes you have to make 20 times more to be able to even make that. And you're like, these are some of the challenges some of them face in
Exactly.
that sense.
So I'm also an angel investor. Invested in a couple of startups.
Mm.
I was looking. We were doing a feasibility studies on or a due diligence on one startup in Takrade,
Mhm.
and I was doing this with an investment vehicle called ZD Circle.
Mm.
So they were investing in green startups.
Mm.
And when we went to do the due diligence, a few things for me came up. Again, we were also going to invest in this business
Yeah.
in euros, right? And the expectation is that they would be able to work with these funds so that in the next 5 years, for me, I'm always thinking of my exit strategy.
Of course.
But it looked then like, okay, looking at their books, looking at everything going on, business is doing so well.
Mhm.
But the CD depreciation
It's
clearly
ridiculous,
tells
man.
me that
It's ridiculous.
whatever they are making now in
Mhm.
the next few years, if the city keeps going on the way it is going, it will be worth nothing when converted into euros. And that means that as an investor, you'll be losing.
Nah.
You will still be losing, even though the business seems like it's doing well. So even where you have opportunities of seed investors coming in to say they want to support very prominent startups, if your business is mostly localized
Mhm.
and you do not have a potential to scale
Mm.
into other jurisdictions where we can say that, okay, currency may be a bit stable here,
Exactly.
so those will cushion you against the shocks here,
Ah.
it's very likely that every investor will turn their back and they will not look at you again. So when it comes to the issue of finance and how the economy has played a role in it, I can tell you that Ghana doesn't look like it is an environment that you can invest in at the moment if you look at the city and the
Would
way
you
it's behaving.
would you say that our environment and our economy um, is a determinant for us to fail? Looking at the current circumstances, as a business and everything, like you look at let's say you have a similar business in Ghana
Mhm.
and another similar business in, let's say, the UK or Netherlands or anything like that. We are doing the same thing.
Yeah,
The possibility of them making it more than us is
it's clearly out there, right?
exactly.
Whatever be the case, now when you even look at it from the consumer side,
Mhm.
the Ghanaian markets have less disposable income to
Yeah,
spend
of course.
on any startup or any business
Which
or
is
any
sad.
product that you are giving. The European market will have a consumer base that's very much has enough disposable income
Mm.
to pursue some of these things. Beyond that, even in terms of saying that, okay, we just want to crowd fund to support
Yeah.
this business,
Mhm.
the Ghanaian market, if it is not an emotional story, if it is not, I'm doing this to make sure that, oh, I'll get a blessing from God,
Exactly.
and this person is telling you a story that's so teary, nobody is going to give 50 pesos to
Yeah.
a business.
Mm.
People are more willing to give money when they find that you are in need and you need this money
Mhm.
to take care of an immediate need,
Mhm.
rather than I want to support or give this money
No,
for you to start a
no,
business.
no,
No.
no, no, no.
Whilst when you look at the European market or even in the American market, people will be more willing to give towards a business. And it's also reflects in our incubator systems, right?
Mhm.
Even the way we accelerator and incubator programs are run outside compared to how they are run in this
Yeah.
country, you'll see a vast difference.
Yeah.
Whilst in Europe, you will have incubators set up by well accomplished entrepreneurs
Mhm.
or established by professionals who have enough and want to now give back to society.
Exactly.
In our part of the world, you would have somebody who is starting himself, looking at starting an incubator program or an accelerator
No
program
experience whatsoever.
without any experience. They are doing it to get by the day. That is their
So it's
entrepreneurship journey as
more
well.
survival than anything.
Very much survival, spot on. It's just a matter of survival in our part of the world as compared to other parts of the world where you would have people going into accelerator and
Hmm.
incubator programs simply to support businesses.
Yeah.
So a clear example is how you will find in other markets, an incubator will have provisions for startups to come in.
Yeah.
You do not pay anything. They will support you. They will introduce you to investors. They will make sure you go through all the
I
training that you
mean,
are required.
look at the US. You have the Silicon Valleys and other things as well.
Different
And
types
then,
of programs
like,
just to help groom entrepreneurs.
yeah, exactly.
And then at the end of the day, they will say, okay, based on this support that we are giving you, once you raise some funds, we take 10% or
Hmm.
15%. And
Hmm.
that's how we keep the incubator running.
Yeah.
Come to this part of the world. We've already mentioned that the precedent is that most of the people who are starting these are not really accomplished entrepreneurs
No.
themselves. So they do not even have the networks to fundraise in the
No.
first place. They do not have the means to get you investors. So what do they do? You have to pay for the co-working space you're going to work in.
Hmm.
And most of the startups will not have the means to do
No.
this. So already from the beginning, you are starting from a place
There's
where
always a constraint from the
already.
start. It's
Exactly.
yeah.
So for me, really, the way we are set up in this country and trying to also mimic the models from outside poses a lot of danger to even startups that are coming up
Hmm.
now. And when you take a look at the way the ecosystem is being run, you'll find several startups go through different accelerator programs. And in the next 5 years, they still haven't gotten
No.
anywhere. No growth, no
Yeah.
customer acquisition, nothing happening. It is just from training to training, from training to training. They do
Mm.
not have any means to get access to proper finance to make
Mm.
sure that their structures are in place to keep running. So it's a myriad of problems. And not to sound like I'm ranting, but
No,
maybe also
say your piece. Say your
solutions
piece.
that can be looked at for me, first of all, is to really understand our part of the world and what we are doing, because
It has to be in context.
context,
Mhm.
very, very important.
Yeah.
Because the problems and the startups that will raise funds in Europe are very different from the types of startups that will raise funds here.
Yeah.
But because we try to mimic the Silicon Valley
Valleys and
model
all
and the
that.
others,
Mhm.
the only potential startups are the fintechs
Yeah.
to raise money
Yeah.
in our part of the world currently.
Because the fintechs are mostly can transcend outside in that sense.
Exactly.
So
They are easily scalable.
yeah.
They are the ones that are dealing with money. So
Mhm.
it's easy for them to really see the different revenues that are coming
Exactly.
in and then going on.
Exactly.
But our setting is really, when you look at the problems that we face, and if we want tailored solutions to our problems and startups that will come up to really solve our problems, then we must rethink the way we run even our
Run.
incubator
Yeah.
and accelerator programs.
Yeah. That even takes me to the next question. I've realized there's a knowledge gap. There's the will,
Mhm.
and you can put it as the survival will to
Yeah.
be able to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is, I want to say most, some of the startups I know are more because I couldn't find a job. So I'm trying to find something that can help me survive.
Yeah.
So you end up doing like, okay, I have this idea, I want to do this. And there's no knowledge to back that.
Mhm.
So they start to even ask them questions and you realize that they don't even know what they're doing. But then again, one has to survive.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of entrepreneurs in this country. But then again, the gap between the skill and the will is a lot.
You're right. You are totally right. But I see this as the beautiful part for me, right?
Mhm.
Because for me, usually entrepreneurship that can be viewed or built from different background or pretexts. You could have someone who is as comfortable and has a well-paying job, or someone who has a family that has fortunes,
Yeah.
who will build different startups. And that's very much what prevails in Europe, where
Mhm.
somebody will come up with a startup that says that I have a technology that will help you check your dog's mood,
Mhm.
right? And that looks like, if you look at it from the context of a global south person,
You're like, what are you doing?
what's
Exactly.
what's why do you need these startups? But that startup will raise like
Yeah. Yeah.
millions, because at the stage that they are,
Mhm.
these are the kind of solutions they need now.
Mhm.
They've dealt with all the basic problems, and they are at the level where now it's all about comfort, it's all about convenience for them. When you come to our parts, that's not the case. So
Is it hold on? Is it survival based
no,
or
so their
solution
part
based?
is more
Yeah, solution based.
solution based for convenience sake, for comfort,
Yeah,
and all that.
exactly.
But in our part, it is very much survival driven
Yeah,
because the problems still manifest in different ways.
yeah,
So you do not have the luxury to be thinking of convenience or comfort
yeah.
when the basic foundations of the problems exist.
Mhm.
And what it also means is that whoever you are solving that problem for does not have the disposable income to purchase or
Exactly.
take advantage of
Yeah,
that. Now, because people are facing this problem heads on, then that is where the necessary knowledge now comes in.
mm.
So I've just discovered that I have to trek from my house to this seller to buy cocoa every morning.
Mhm.
Now I need a solution. Is it possible to get a motorbike rider that I can easily call every morning, get me the porridge, and then bring to the house, and then I'll pay you, and then keep going? That okay, if I'm the only person facing this problem, then others may be facing it.
Yeah,
What do I need to learn about logistics management companies? How do I need to what do I need to learn about delivery systems
mhm.
to be able to build this?
Mm.
So these survival entrepreneurs now begin going after the knowledge.
Yeah,
Unfortunately for us, every knowledge that you will find pertaining to these logistics running companies and everything will be from the global north again,
yeah,
where address systems work. Everything is on top. So it's easy to build on this architecture that's already established.
exactly.
In our part of the world, you have to now solve the problems from
The scratch,
this
huh?
from scratch.
Mhm.
So from understanding how you will use an addressing system
Yeah,
to even now coming to onboard
yeah.
motor riders to now start doing this
Mhm.
simple delivery system. So it is not that the knowledge gap is so wide. It is that when the entrepreneur begins learning how to do A, then he realizes B is necessary. So he starts learning about B as well.
Yeah,
Then he realizes C is necessary. So the problems keep coming up.
yeah,
And at that stage, too, remember we've already established that access to funds is a huge problem. So you
yeah.
do not have access to funds.
Mhm.
For you to say that, okay, let me find partners or collaborators
Yeah,
who will now specialize in these areas of knowledge for me.
yeah.
That's one element of it. The other element is that our educational system does not prepare us for this.
No,
They do
it
not
doesn't. It doesn't.
meet the
It doesn't.
current
It
needs
doesn't. It
of
doesn't.
the Ghanaian entrepreneur.
No.
So you do not study principles or economic theories that are relevant to the time. All you are studying is some archaic curriculum or
Yeah, the education system is actually a
it's
very
terrible.
it's outdated compared to like we are in a global
Yeah.
world, right? And it's getting more closer by the century, right? And you look at the fact that we are way behind, and this is the 21st century, and it's not an excuse anymore.
At all. At all.
It's not an excuse anymore.
At all.
Looking at how because you you're let's say you're being hired as a consultant to hire let's say marketing people for a company.
Yeah.
You get fresh university graduates, you interview them, or and you realize that they don't know
At all.
anything at all. And it's like,
Cannot qualify.
what kind of what are you doing in university? Like, what are they teaching us? You get it's a very sad thing to know.
It is. And when you say it, they say that university is where you go to get universal knowledge, and that everything else is based on you building on that.
Oh, that's nonsense.
But
What do you mean by
exactly,
that?
but that is also why we are far behind, because the people that we mimic in terms of the way we run our education have far gone
They've passed that
ahead and
exactly.
developed
Yeah,
new models of teaching and going about the education.
yeah.
And we have stayed with a colonial system, and that is what's affecting us now.
It's important you brought that up, right? With the colonial system and everything, right? What I noticed, right, via reading and other things, is the fact that our colonial system doesn't encourage us to create value. It encourages us to extract value. So, because you look back in the day where they came into the country, what they did was just extract value from the country and go.
Exactly.
It being our natural resources or whatever it is, or human resources or anything, they extracted value
Yeah.
and they left that system for us.
Exactly.
We didn't change anything.
At
We
all.
just inherited that system.
At
And we are
all.
still in a system where instead of creating value, we extract value. Look at all these things that are happening in the country. We talk about corruption, we talk about these calamity. Everybody thinks about extracting value.
Extraction.
What I will get for this thing inside.
Yeah.
Not what am I going to contribute or make it work.
Exactly.
That's what we have. That's the problem we have. One of the problems we have in the country is we need to change that system from, extracting value to making value. Even these entrepreneurs and everything, you look at you look at their models and everything. You don't see, it's more about Charlie, how I go make money out of this.
Exactly.
And that's not sustainable in the long run.
Yeah.
We are all short-term thinkers.
Yeah.
Look at our politicians. Look at these things they brought up. All these money, everything is short-term.
Very, very short term.
Where are we going as a country if this is where we're going?
Oh, nowhere. Honestly, no.
We are stuck in a place where people are refusing to see, or if they're seeing, they are not trying to have a solution to it.
No, because it benefits them, right? And I think that you make a very solid case. And so when you even look at the global value chain for any product, any service, anything at all, you will definitely find that the global system itself has intentionally positioned not just Ghana, but
Yeah.
Africa to be the part that
Exactly.
extracts, and then they will then go ahead and work on the
Yeah.
end of the value chain where they have the service, the marketing, distribution, and everything happening. So then that means that when we extract, they take it, add value, do everything,
How many years
and then
have
they
we-
bring it back to us.
How many years have we produced cocoa in this country?
That's not even a question to go with, because
We are still what we do.
from the beginning, when Fernando Po, whatever it is, we started experimenting with cocoa, became the largest exporter of cocoa, whatever.
It's still one of the largest exporters of cocoa, but
No, it's actually going down now.
of course it's going
It's
down.
actually going
Of
down
course
now.
it's going down.
Because even at the places where we are expected to have been doing well, we've so neglected it, and
Yeah.
now we are
Going
down.
We've not seen a gradual increase, or let's say in terms of technology or anything, in the cocoa production scheme. We are still producing, exporting raw materials of cocoa,
Exactly.
which is, if you talk about the supply chain, it's the least of it. We're getting the least out of all
Exactly.
these things. We take it to Netherlands and other places, they turn it into what, and they ship it back to us.
Yeah. And and the sad thing is, again, even beyond the fact that so the few entrepreneurs or startups that are trying to
Yeah.
really add value here, right? Because they do not get the support that's needed.
So subsidies and all that.
They don't get all that support. So whatever they produce becomes much more expensive than the one that's coming from Europe.
Exactly.
So in the long run, you have a situation where, again, goes back to disposable income. So people do not have enough to be able to afford what's produced locally. So people will keep telling you the local ones are expensive. So they want a second hand, or they want a fast one that has been built in Europe and then sent to Africa. So we have this different dynamics at play. And for me, these discussions will never go answered when we look solely at the entrepreneurs or the startups and leave the markets that we are building these solutions for as entrepreneurs. But that's, again, on the subject of colonialism, right? It takes me back to a situation where even when you look at our dynamics, we have informal and formal sector.
Yeah.
And that alone is also a very huge conversation that needs to be had, because in Ghana, everywhere you look, whatever statistics you look at, whether it is World Bank, ILO, or whoever is looking at our market or business terrain, they will continuously tell you that over 80% of our businesses are in the informal sector. Why then do we not prioritize the informal sector? And for me, that alone tells you the way we are thinking about solutions for our business ecosystem
Mhm.
or the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Mhm.
When we have incubators and accelerators that have been set up, also neglecting the informal sector, so called, and focusing on technology entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
then you realize that we've jumped from the fundamentals because the informal sector is ripe with a lot of existing businesses that have been in operations for years,
Yeah.
some decades,
Mhm.
right? And these are businesses that already have a system.
Mhm.
If our society really wanted to prioritize the business environment that we have and create more entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
these are the people we need to start thinking of creating structures for or around their businesses. And when I talk about creating structures, I don't mean imposing structures.
Yeah.
Study their system. Why are they able to survive for decades?
Mhm.
When you take a startup entrepreneur, comes out, builds a technology app or something, and in the next 1 year you don't hear from them again. A lot of them will raise hundreds and thousands of USD, and in the next 5 years they are no longer in existence. But you look at these informal businesses, and they most of the time are solving our core fundamental problems.
Yeah.
And so, if these people are working in that area, shouldn't our incubator and accelerator spaces start focusing on working with these informal sectors
Mhm.
to study their models and build systems around it so these informal businesses can start looking at scaling? Because for me, when you take the informal sector, their only problem or what is keeping them where they are is the fact that they are not scaling.
Yeah.
So you find a watch seller as a
Yeah. It's
joint
just
and they will be
scaling.
there
Yeah.
for decades.
Yeah. There's no skill. Yeah.
So they are not scaling. So that is where, if we are a society that's really thinking about building systems and solutions, our incubator and accelerator spaces should be looking at how we can create models that enable these businesses to scale.
Mhm.
So then we will start building more of these businesses that will start getting structures and growing. And perhaps for Africa, these are the businesses that can really become our unicorns.
Yeah.
But if we are not thinking of them that way, and we keep focusing on the model that has played out in Europe and in Silicon Valley in the US, then most likely we will keep on being second in everything, or maybe even last to come join the race.
Mm.
Because now I can tell you the Chinese have overtaken a lot of these things that we look at.
Yeah.
You go to them and they've built models that work within their countries.
It's very in context in that sense, right? Because if you look at, I think I agree with you. Our problem is more about structure. We don't have a structure where we can scale up from the structure. You know that if you leave plan A, you go to plan B, you go to plan C. But we have people who are stuck in plan A,
Yeah.
and we have our leaders and politicians who are, you know, campaigning
Yeah.
on unnecessary petty things,
Mm.
and they are campaigning based on survival things, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I'll give you this, I'll give you that. No, these are extractors that can actually help you and your future generations in that sense. And we are stuck in that loop of, in the next 4 years they'll come and tell you that, oh, what am I going to give you? This, oh, take this one, take this one. I built you a public toilet somewhere. I built you a
Exactly.
school. I was like,
Tell the
these
roads, we did this, we did that. Yeah.
you can build so many schools in the country, but then again, if the education structure is
It's
wrong,
not
you're not producing the right people.
at all.
It's useless.
It is,
We have so many
spot
white
on.
elephant, what do you call it, institutions and
Yeah.
everything in the country
Yeah.
that are not producing anything at
Anything
all.
at all.
And you
It's
wonder
true.
why. And I refuse to believe that we don't have intellectuals or smart people in these places, right? The question is, why are they not doing anything? Do they not care? Or just you're just also stuck in the whole traditional system that they feel as if they can't do anything about it. They have to just follow what the ancestors left.
Well,
Uh,
I don't think I can attempt answering that
it's just
question
it's
for
just
them.
it's just a ridiculous thing. You
But
get me? It's
yeah.
just like
But yeah, I guess where there's the will, there's sometimes is the power, right? We've definitely seen there are two different things at play here.
yeah,
You could have a situation where we have someone who really wants to see change, and have all the ideas and want to implement it, but it's really going to be difficult because the people have been miseducated for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and you see that happening a lot, especially with the informal sector. As for example, you could have a situation where there is a market that has been established and somebody says that, okay, I want to come and invest in this location. I want to build this market to an ultramodern market and then give it back. But what plays out is that there is always the political selfishness at play. So people will already read meanings into whatever is going to happen there. And
Exactly.
then say that, look, if we allow these people to develop here, we are not going to get it again. They are going to give it to us, even if they will give it to us
Yeah.
at exorbitant prices and
Yeah.
then all that. And so for me, there are myriads of issues around how change can start happening. And
It's a multifaceted
it's,
thing.
yeah, and so sometimes it's very difficult, but we can take it a step at a time, right?
Exactly.
Um, there is this thing where you have people believing that our culture in itself has a way of limiting entrepreneurial potentials,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you'll see that a lot of the times people will say we don't necessarily do things together. So you find tomato sellers lined up on a street and none of them wants to collaborate and
There's
then
no
all that.
union or whatsoever. Yeah, in that
Exactly.
sense.
And so you find a lot of these things come up every now and then, and people seem to believe that yes, these things mean that our culture itself is also against or does not encourage entrepreneurship growth. Oftentimes I've begged to differ because I believe that if you study our informal system very well, or the structures within the markets that many have not really taken time to look at, you'll find that these businesses collaborate in a sense. Or oftentimes they come together to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's always an issue with perception and the fact that we've been groomed to mistrust each other. And that's something that also, again, was planted by colonialists,
Yeah.
right? So we must, to be able to colonize us, they had to first plant mistrust.
Of course.
So if I don't trust you, you don't trust me, then even when we want to do things together, I have to be watching my back all the time. So I find in the informal sector that you would have situations where businesses come together, they contribute, they put money together and use this money to support each other when they need loans, when they need support, when welfare and all that. But immediately you ask these same businesses who have been putting money together for years and taking care of their welfare and all that, immediately you ask them, there is this one project. You two need to come together as a consortium, as a group to take this contract and execute it. That's when there will be problems.
Like, okay, there's money involved now.
Exactly.
Just
But
like...
that money is coming from an external source.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so for me, it's really just the mistrust that has been planted. And that is what is really taking or seem to make our culture look like it's
But
hinders entrepreneurship.
The point is like, how do we solve this? Because there was this instance, right? I read a book where the Japanese, right, they had this problem with having a lot of um, um, airplane disasters, right? And they realized the problem was more cultural than anything because there was a miscommunication between the co-pilot and the pilot itself. Because there's a ranking system where you have to respect your orders and everything. So let's say the pilot is doing something wrong. You don't know how to say that. Before you say it, it's too late. So they brought up a system where they invited a specialist from America, right? He came into the system and realized that now this is one of the problems that they are really facing, right? So we decided to put all of them on the same trajectory. Like, if you find that the pilot is doing something wrong, you have the right to speak up and the right to take action to make sure these things happen. And it changed a lot of,
Exactly.
and you look at our systems like that, you realize what kind of cultural thing is taking us back and how do we change it? How do we implement new ways and replace the old culture with a new culture, and allow it to take effect and affect the next generation? Because I know it's not going to be a year or two. It has to, enter
Yeah.
into our systems.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody finding solutions for that.
That's again going back to one of our fundamental problems, which for me is very crucial but has been left unattended to for
Yeah.
decades. And that's really knowledge seeking, right?
Mm.
Or seeking to understand where the issues have emanated from. We usually do not fund our own research. We don't do research enough to find out what's used to exist before the colonialists came in. What used to exist? What was our system? How did we do trade amongst each other? Because I don't believe trust was an issue before the colonialists came in.
When you say before which ones are you talking? Because they started coming in the 14th, 15th century. So, do we go all the way back?
I won't go all the way back. I'll
Mhm.
go just as far as 1970s when the first word informal was used, or the nomenclature of informality
Mm.
was used by a British anthropologist who came to Ghana.
Mm.
And he saw the Frafres who had come all the way from the north to
Yeah.
Accra to trade.
Oh,
And they were selling and doing stuff. And he realized, okay,
I can see it.
these trade and the way they are going about it kind of doesn't go into government's books, or government doesn't oversee what is happening there.
Mm.
So decided to call it informal. And then as opposed to the system where he was familiar with in the UK, that government basically had to have oversight over everything that happens. So I will go just as far back as the 1970s, where the first nomenclature about informality and everything really started from. Prior to his, I think, building on his foundation, ILO conducted another research, did it within Ghana and then in Kenya, to clearly now dig deep into the concept of informality, finding businesses that were running without government oversight and sometimes label them illegal, the black economy, and then all that. Current research has sought to distinguish between all these and say that, look, the fact that there is a business running that's informal doesn't make it illegal.
Exactly.
In our markets, you go there, a lot of people pay tolls, they pay taxes,
Yeah.
they pay different forms of
course.
taxes. So it means that the government knows them.
Yeah.
They may not have incorporated, that doesn't make them informal and that kind of thing. So some may be semi-formal, and then all that. So what I'm saying is simply that if we want to understand how our culture has supported or helped entrepreneurs, we can go just as far back as prior to 1970 and then look at the way people were doing businesses. An example that I'll give you now is when you go to the northern region, there's a community called Daboya where they do, they weave the smocks and then all those things. And you'll find very simple models of communal businesses and clusters weaving and doing business amongst themselves, participatory sharing, profits sharing, all those things going on.
Yeah.
And you realize that these were the models that we used to run, where you would have somebody taking care of the farming, another person taking care of the access to markets, another person. And these were all different households doing this. So collaboration really existed. It is when we started doing things the colonialist way that we said, okay, if the government will know about this, this has to do this has to go that way and all that. I would say there's a very simple solution to this, right? It shouldn't just be me. I'm trying to dig knowledge around this, experiment with different community business models that I can come up with to see that the different informal businesses within Kantomanto may not have the balls to be able to export within after. But if I put 4 of them together, they will now have the resources. They will now be able to produce enough to export within after. Can I put these 5 together, experiment with them, see? We
Whether
need
it
to
works.
clearly outline certain terms. Let's have them
Of
do the
course.
discussions.
Hmm.
Let them transfer knowledge from how they save for welfare
Hmm.
to how they are going to save for business and
Yeah,
entrepreneurship, because they already do this when it comes to welfare and never have
exactly.
problems.
Yeah,
So why can't they transfer the same knowledge to when dealing with businesses or contracts or different export programs and all that? So for me, I think a lot of these cultural problems just has to do with finding knowledge and understanding each other. Then we will solve these things. People say that, okay, how about people who just put their cousins in charge of duties, and their cousins will come and squander the money and all
yeah,
that. Your cousin didn't have any financial literacy,
yeah,
perhaps. You don't, if you want your cousin to manage something, put them through the necessary training.
exactly.
Let them get the skills, let them understand. And the whole concept about having someone do work with you when they can't afford it, give them a stake in the business.
Hmm.
You own 2%, you own 3%. That alone, that stake in the business makes them
Responsible.
take ownership.
Mm.
Exactly. So when we begin to become very selfless and see the need to own 1% of $1 million company rather than 100% of a $0 company, then we will understand that some of these things we can implement and clearly see family businesses coming up, community businesses coming
Yeah,
up. And even if people want to go solo and build their own businesses, they will still build businesses, but collaborate effectively, share profits, be participatory, and then we will all succeed.
yeah. So conclude. Let's conclude this, right?
Mhm,
Our conversation is based on like finding problems and solutions
mhm,
to
yeah,
our business and entrepreneurial
yeah,
space.
mhm,
So we've mentioned that we need structures. We need to change our cultural mindset.
yeah,
We need collaborations and
mhm,
everything, right? But these are multifaceted
yeah.
solutions, right? In your opinion, what other solutions do we think we need that are simple enough that we can start? Because at the end of the day, we can't start from one and jump to 100. It has to be a progressive build. And what would your advice be to young entrepreneurs coming up? What are they supposed to do, and what are they supposed to not do to be able to succeed in this let me put it, this
Difficult environment, right?
difficult environment, or unfriendly terrain
Yeah.
in that sense? What should they do to be able to at least scale up progressively in that sense, from the startup to the end? We have 5 minutes to finish that.
I think for me, everywhere I've been asked about what next, my first response is knowledge, right?
Mm.
That knowledge gap has to be filled. Whether it's an area that you have a background in from school,
Mhm.
or it's a purely new terrain that you are venturing, you need to read.
Exactly.
You need to understand what transpires within the sector or industry that you are going into.
Mm.
You need to understand what's happening. You can learn as you go.
Yeah,
It's totally acceptable. I don't believe in, like, people need to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
exactly.
Keep that iterative process going.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing: learning and learning and learning, and keep learning and going. Um, don't be afraid to fail.
Mhm.
I think I started running a business from the university. I ran a delivery company. I left. I handed it over to um, a junior who came, took over. He ran it, left it to another person, and that's how we were taking care of ourselves in school. Eventually, one collapsed it on campus, but
Mm.
yes, we made an effort.
Mhm.
Went, came out, started a couple of businesses. Some of them collapsed. Some of them are still ongoing. And
Mhm.
so, for me, don't be afraid to fail. Keep trying and keep building different um, revenue model and streams that you
Yeah.
can think of. That's the second one. And the third one for me is, again, do not buy into the whole terrain of people, do not trust people
Mm.
or mistrust that
Mm.
has been sold to us. People say I'm an optimist
But
or
that's
an
easier
eternal
said than
optimist.
done.
Well, that's true. And
Yeah.
again, that's why I believe that, you see, because progress really depends on people.
Yeah, of course.
You need people to progress. You need people to make it.
So would you say that you should get people who you trust around you rather than just trust people in that sense? Because you can't just blindly trust people. People can just,
Yeah, but that's also me. Again, I don't say blindly trust.
Mm,
It has to always be educated. You have to always be able to read the room
mhm.
and understand which people are coming with ulterior motives and which people are coming with
Yeah.
genuine intentions. But one of the things about being an entrepreneur is also the fact that you have to be a good judge of character.
Yeah, that's very
As an
important.
entrepreneur, you have to be a very good judge of character.
And that's also a
Because
skill
even
you need to
selecting a
learn.
team,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's also a skill you need to learn.
Yeah.
Even in selecting a team that you would work with,
Mm,
that is very crucial because
Mm.
sometimes it's not you,
exactly.
it is the team that will ensure that this business succeeds or not.
Mm,
Um, I think it would be useful to also take investment courses or programs very seriously
mm,
because ultimately you do not have the money, you do not have the means.
mm.
And so if you do not have the money and you don't have the means, it means that you need to know what it takes to get investment into your
Exactly.
business and make sure that right from day one you are doing these things.
Exactly.
But to finally end it, don't leave, get a day job or get something that you are doing on the side.
If you want to be
If you want
realistic,
to
like,
be,
yeah,
yeah, get something that you are doing on the side to take care of your immediate needs
that's very
so
important.
you can have time for your entrepreneurship journey.
Exactly.
If you don't, then that's where you have problems.
Mm,
So I think yes, it's very important, and not just for survival, but because you also learn from working with others or working under others.
mm.
You get that knowledge, you transfer it to your business, and it works for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. This
Thank
was
you
very
too.
insightful.
Thank you too. Yeah.